What's up, everybody? It's Ty the Bourbon Guy, and welcome back to another whiskey review. Today we are reviewing Basil Hayden Toast. That's it. Just toast. Not Basil Hayden Toasted, not toasted in char barrels, not double oaked and toasted barrels. Nothing toasted, just toast. That's what we're doing. Basil Hayden is a Jim Beam product, and it comes from that family. And I know Basil Hayden can be one of these whiskeys that people love and then love to hate. And for me personally, Basil Hayden has a special place in my heart because it was part of my whiskey journey. Basil Hayden was one of the whiskeys that I felt like I'm, paying a higher dollar amount, probably spending more on whiskey than I've ever spent. The bottle looks awesome. And at that lower proof, I was able at that time to put it over ice and enjoy it that way. And I felt like, man, at least I'm not dumping a bunch of soda into this, and I can actually taste, the actual whiskey taste. So at that proof, the overall presentation of that, at that time, that was very, very much what I was into in that part of my whiskey journey. So I feel like there's a lot of hate on this, not necessarily the toast version, but on Basil Hayden in general. And I understand where people are coming from with that. But I also feel like if somebody's new to whiskey, or if they just enjoy Basil Hayden, let them enjoy it. If they choose to buy this bottle, and if that's what helps them, feel like they're stepping their game up, then let them do it. I mean, there could be other bottles that maybe we recommend and say, if you like that, maybe try this or try that. But I've seen a lot of people just flat out knock it, and I don't agree with it just because how my whiskey journey started. It started with a bottle of Basil Hayden. It was part of that, at least. I don't want to say it necessarily started there, but that was part of my journey. So, all that being said, with where Basil Hayden was in my heart and all this, and I've got a soft spot for it, even though I don't really reach for that bottle anymore, when they came out with Toast, I was really excited. Now, the whole toasted everything's toasted nowadays. I was really excited thinking that this particular product would be like that. Then I realized that that's not necessarily the case. This bottle itself actually just says Basil Hayden Toast. Again, doesn't say toasted. And then underneath that, it just says Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, artfully aged. What does that mean, Jim Beam? It's got James Beam Distilling on there. Okay, great. The thing with Basil Hayden in general, the packaging is made to look premium. It's obviously at a higher price point. This is made to really stand out as a particular bottle on a shelf and make people feel like this is a special whiskey. That is the whole Basil Hayden brand. And again, yes, it's at a higher price point, and there's other whiskeys out there that you can find either at that price or lower that maybe bring more proof, more flavor, whatever it may be. But that's who they are marketing to. So with the whole toasted movement, let's see, does this really impact the whiskey that much? And let's see if that flavor, maybe there's more in-depth flavor, or whatever the case is. Spoiler alert, I've had this before, and I did not enjoy my first experience with it. I'm going to officially review it today and just see, does that change? Maybe this opened up a little bit. I don't know what may happen with this. But I'm willing to try it, and we're going to give it a review and see where we land. I'm going to try my hardest not to to really bash this bottle, but I will say it's not one of my favorites. But on the nose, I get almost like plastic. It just smells like it's fake almost. I don't know that I've ever had that nose of something that smells like fake bourbon, but there's this plastic note. The ethanol comes through, but not like high proof ethanol, not like this is 130 proof and I get the whiff of alcohol. It's not like that. It's just that nose, that scent is just lingering. To be fair, I do still get the vanilla, still get caramel. I don't really get much past that, but some of the unpleasant notes that I'm getting are kind of pulling away from any potentially good notes that I do have in there. So let's see what it tastes like on the palate. Cheers. So I would say The nose for me was underwhelming. The palate follows that 100%. I think the palate is still underwhelming. The notes that I'm getting are so off-putting for my palate. Again, there's plenty of people that enjoy this whiskey, and that's going to be the case with any whiskey. Just always keep that in mind, that just because I may not like something or it's not for me does not mean that you won't like it. But it's better than I remember, I'll say that. But the notes that I'm getting are still off-putting to where I don't really... It's almost like I'm not a big fan of diet sodas. I can drink them, but when you drink a diet soda, you know you are drinking a diet soda, right? There's just some of these notes that are very... and if you drink diet soda and then maybe you go to a regular soda, that you can tell that you're flipping between the two. And a lot of the times the note that's there, you know immediately that this is the zone that I'm in right now. And so whether you like it or not, it's going to pull you in a different direction. I don't like diet sodas, so when I take a sip of that, it's tastes bad to me. So any good that could come out of it is just overpowered by the notes that I don't like. That's what I feel about this whiskey. Let's keep drinking though. See if it changes. You know, still just a slight caramel. It's just not for me. There is a lack of flavor. There is no depth to this whiskey. Caramel, obviously vanilla, that type of thing. Not really oak, but just like a bitterness almost to this whiskey. Again, I'm not going to bash it. I can make a whole video about how much I dislike this. But to me, it's just not for me and what I'm trying to accomplish when I drink a whiskey. And that basically is, I'm looking for depth of flavor. I'm looking for a range of flavor. A lot of whiskeys, and bourbon in particular, bring out caramel, vanilla, oak, tobacco, leather. But what's the range of that flavor wheel, and how many of these different flavors can I get in there? What's the depth of that flavor so I taste it, but then how rich is it? The viscosity, how oily is this whiskey? The mouthfeel, the finish of it. All these different things are things that we're looking for when we are drinking whiskey and trying to review it or rate it. And I'm missing a lot of that. The mouthfeel is not anything that's unpleasant, but it's not anything that I would even think to address because it's just non-existent. There's not a finish at all. Again, at this proof, I don't really anticipate that there's going to be much there, but there's plenty of whiskeys that I've had that are in this range that still provide a depth of flavor. I just don't know that this one is. So when you say toast, the thing that's big for me is transparency. What does that mean? What are you trying to accomplish by saying this? And I really feel like it's a marketing ploy, as is probably the whole brand. But, you know, toast, we're trying to tap into the whole toasted market. Makes it sound good. This would be a bottle that if I knew somebody enjoyed this bottle and they were over, you know, hanging out at my house or something like that, I would just give them the bottle because I personally dislike it that much. If it were somebody who was new to whiskey, I would not give them this bottle and just give it away to them because I would want them to try something that's maybe a little bit better. But to each his own. I mean, really, it just depends on your palate. There are certain whiskeys that you can go back and check out my other reviews and see where I stand on those. And if my palate maybe aligns with yours, then maybe this is not for you. But if you get a chance to try this, I would absolutely try it before you buy it. I do see it a little bit more often than I used to. It's still not necessarily everywhere, like Basil Hayden is, but you can find it. And again, at that price point, it's a higher dollar. I don't know that it would be worth it. I think there are a lot of bourbons that are out there at that price or below that provide a way better experience, better flavors, richness, mouthfeel, depth of flavor, finish. It can hold up in a cocktail, all these things. I think if you're looking for something like that, I would pass on this. So let's finish it, and then we'll give it an official rating, and we'll get out of here. So on that last sip, I think as it maybe opened up a little bit, that plastic note that I got initially started to fade away a little bit, and it kind of The caramel did come through. It was a better experience the longer that sat in the glass and the more that I went back to it than the initial experience. This experience has been better than when I first cracked the bottle, than that experience. So this might be a whiskey that just kind of needs time to maybe develop a little bit, even at a lower proof. Still not one I would ever buy again. It's not one that I would recommend to anyone. It would just be a situation where somebody tells me that I've had Toast Basil Hayden and it's my favorite or I like it. At that point, then I'm like, okay, then you're good. But I would never recommend this to anybody. I don't care if you're a beginner, if you've been in the whiskey game. I would not personally recommend this off of my palate. But again, it means absolutely nothing. Bourbon and whiskey and all of it is just like food or anything else, that it doesn't really matter what I think. You may like a certain food that I don't like, and I may love a certain food that you don't like, or whatever the case is. That happens all the time, right? And people have certain interests and certain feelings towards certain things, and it's just so subjective. So just keep that in mind. Even if there's a whiskey bottle that I do not enjoy, just that doesn't mean that it's not going to be good to somebody out there, or what I'm trying to accomplish might not be what that person wants to accomplish. Maybe somebody buys this, it looks good on a bar, whatever the case is, it's a great looking bottle, and then they just dump a bunch of soda in it anyway, and it doesn't really matter what it tastes like. And yeah, sure. But keep that in mind with any review. I did notice that a lot of my reviews were kind of almost in the same range. And so the fact that I didn't like this before when I first opened it made me want to review this, because I think it is important to understand, yes, certain bottles, if I'm rating them a 91, a 92, a 93, but I keep staying in that range, great. But we need to find something that we dislike so that we can also figure out what's really good. And it's kind of a weird way to put it, but for me personally, when you're comparing whiskeys, if I keep drinking whiskey after whiskey that's good, and this one's good and that one's good, you can still kind of compare, but the taste differences between them maybe are too similar. So sometimes I will pick a whiskey that I don't necessarily care for and take a sip and then go back to something else that I know that I like and just see like, oh man, I really like this. Or maybe I'll change the style. Maybe I'll change where that whiskey came from, just to get some different taste profiles, and then go back to what I like and see how much I really like, or to see if I can pull out more differences with another pour. All that being said, I'm going to rate this bottle an 86 out of 100. It is a high dollar. It's at a high price point. I don't like when bottles are trying to necessarily market to me or trying to get me to sell just based on looks and not the actual whiskey on the inside. So I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of the fact that it's just toast. It's not necessarily toasted, or there's nothing necessarily different about this, or we don't really know what happened with this process. There's not that much transparency. I do like Jim Beam overall as a distillery, so the whiskey going into it is still very good, but it's at the proof and then the toast and then the price. Not a fan, just not for me. But again, if you've tried this and you enjoy it, do you. And that's all we got for today. I appreciate you all tuning in. You've been here this long, might as well subscribe, comment, like, do all the things, and I will see you in the next review. Cheers.